Singing back to the same old, thing about, well, the men were the ones who got the education. I have to look at Sembene as a journey, because at the time Sembene, during the era of colonialism, especially in French West Africa, education was just denied to women.
Yes.
So to find women,
and it's still the case in certain parts on the continent as well.
Right, exactly. He was one of the first
in that time.
Exactly, and you have to look at the way history was written, because he was also trying to tell a story that yes, you had this woman, and he would also give, in the book, it's also given reasons, why women were denied, this access actually to their own, to not even apart from the education, the work they were doing in the colonial era was also denied to them. In God's Bits of Wood, he actually uses this woman as tools of protest. That despite the fact that all of this was taken away from them, they were still able to gather themselves as a community, because based on the communities they lived in, based on the culture, based on what was still there on the ground, they still came together, were able to confront,
and carry the campaign through.
And carry the campaign through. And when the book came out, and the critics, would say that, looking through the works of all the other African writers in that generation, he was the first writer to actually give the voice. The women's characters were always strong. Sembene never makes any qualms about saying that you cannot, develop, for Africa, to actually get rid of any kind of colonial past, or any kind of ills, or any kind of, whatever is wrong on the continent, which we know, for all kinds of reasons, you have to include all the marginalized groups, which is why his work, in his films, you have women who are strong characters, this also is another theme in his work.
Is the role of women.
The role of women, very crucial. Children are very important, the youth. He also has a thing about youth, the younger generation, a younger generation. He had so much disappointment, with the elites, or the so-called educated leaders, and all his work has always been a warning, you see, from even the 50s, 60s up to the 80s, the themes through his work are always reconstructing, little kinds of allusions, how can we move forward? For him, it's the marginalized whose histories have always been subjugated at every point, and usually it's always the young and women, but he repositions them, yes, you do have a few obnoxious ones, but basically they do have prominent roles to play,
Okay, so I think by now we're probably getting an idea of the work of Sembene, where he's coming from, and essentially, where his work, hopefully, what effect his work will have on people that come into contact with his work, and the important questions that he's throwing up, again, with women, with the idea of access to education by the most denied, and then also the imperialist regime. So there's a film which is, again, just in its title alone is quite controversial. We Don't Want to Convert to Islam. Okay, the film is quite poignant because, again, talking about this idea of colonialism, coming into contact with the African continent, under the pressure of religious conversions, okay, obviously people didn't necessarily want to do that. However, it was a two-handed thing. It was, you have religion and you have slavery. So, you know, the two came hand in hand. Now that's quite ironic, because you would have thought that religion was there to free the spirit, when actually what they're saying is come to the religion, and by the way, you're going into slavery too.
You're going into slavery, which is why because that whole Chedo, you know, was a real eye-opener for me, because I still had to go back and read the historical events.
Yes.
Or I also had to go back, because with Sembene, you know, he's given you this context, you know, but I also have to make sure that it's also in a religious context as well.
Yes.
And there's a very, very interesting book called God Alone is King, and that's basically the incursion of Islam into West Africa,
Right.
where God alone is king. Traditional rulers or any other rulers do not count. When Africa, or when Islam came into Africa, they found, of course, a monarchy or rulers on the ground, and this was kind of a kind of how do we, you know, subjugate the rulers? Because God alone is king. You know, you can't be king. You know, so conversion was through the sword.
It was like the common thing at the time.
So for the rulers,
for
the rulers to actually maintain their own power positions. Remember, they didn't want to give up this authority. I mean, their own authority, you know, over Islam. Some of them actually secretly converted. Because they had to convert, you know, because that was the only way they could maintain their own power positions, you know. If somebody comes up to me and says, well, you know, I'm going to invade your house, but if you just give me a tiny space in here, at least that way you can still have your house. At least that way I still maintain some of my authority. But what, you know, he was trying to put forward in the film is that the moment you give away any authority, you've given away all your rights. Because slowly and slowly, people would start making demands.
Yes.
So you give them a room or a tiny space, and oh, can I just use the bathroom? Oh, can I just use the toilet? And that was how this became
sort of, it sort of almost, well, as you say, it started to erode.
It started to erode, exactly.
Cultures.
Once you let people into your house, they start understanding your behavior. They can start observing you. They can start seeing what makes you tick, what makes you who you are. And if I start playing on those kind of sentiments, you know, so there was a part where the king was becoming a bit, you know, disillusioned or very angry. How come you did not call me king? Okay, so it's like, you want me to call you king? Well, for me to actually respect you, you've got to respect my religion. So because of the ego, you know, I will, of course, you know, so...
well, essentially there's a lot of things at play there, essentially. There's the psyche, the Mayan, the institution of religion, and then, as you said before, the idea of authority, property and rights, which essentially then leads back onto the people and their place in society.
And so, well, if the people, thank you. So if I'm obviously trying to think about my own power position, what about the people that have entrusted me? So we found out that in Chedo, the whole idea of Chedo was actually those warrior class. They essentially had a role to play. I mean, they'd always had, you know, a part in the monarchy. They were the warrior soldiers, and they were a people of refusal. They were actually adamant about conversion. They would rather be sold into slavery than actually convert. So this is where the whole, you know, idea, you know, of the Chedo, and because of the refusal to convert, there was a lot of, you know, controversy, you know, where certain parts of the monarchy, you know, because they obviously wanted, it's really about maintaining power positions at all times. One part of the monarchy decided that they would obviously convert.
Yeah.
And this is where you get the split in African society till today, where you have families who had decided for all kinds of reasons convert to a particular religion.
Yeah.
Another part of the family, you know, convert, and those who refuse.
Yeah.
So the Chedo were the people of refusal. And Sembene, you know, tried to retell their own story.
Okay.
You see, this is a retelling of a story about people who not everybody gave up their rights, you know, and it was really a kind of awakening that, you know, you don't have to compromise, you know, at any given point, because somebody, you know, is coming in to encroach on your, you know, for us in this modern age, you know, where most of us have a fear of, oh, do you want to be liked by somebody? Is it about the ego? Is it about finance? How much am I going to gain? Just because. So Chedo is very relevant to today, because, you know, it was all about the spirit, you know, of the people, you know, of a particular group of people in Senegal. But today he says that the Chedo could be people of the world, you know, this could be in any kind of society. When I was actually writing that chapter on Chedo, that was the time of the Arab Spring.